Welcome back to BHP After Dark. I'm Benjo as always.
I'm B. Benjo, how the heck are you?
I'm heckin' great.
Good. Benjo, we're here on what episode?
Season 1, episode 26. You may be like, you can just skip episode 25. But there's a twist. Episode 25 was just responding to listeners' questions.
Which, Benjo, before the podcast, you mentioned maybe we should have an episode where we respond to all of our listeners' questions.
But we have to have listeners' questions.
Hold on. One question at a time, all y'all crazy people. Yeah, Benjo, this one's called Occupy Britannia. And so the reason it's called Occupy Britannia, because in 2011 or 12 or whenever this came out, there was this movement called Occupy Wall Street, where a bunch of for the most part, they were like dirty hippies, just went.
Yeah.
But it was protesting. They went and they camped out in front of Wall Street, and then every state they would do it around the Capitol or the financial district. I remember they were in Charlotte, they were in Columbia, they were in Greenville. It was Occupy Columbia, Occupy Charlotte, and they were protesting.
Occupy Greenville.
Greenville, yeah. I think there was like one or two dudes in Greenwood that showed up downtown. Occupy Greenwood. But they were protesting like corporate greed and that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that would have been around the time that he filmed this, and there's a double entendre with Occupy Britannia. But anyway, everything going all right with you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Good. You ready to dig into some British history?
I'm ready to just get my hands dirty,
Benjo, what I was thinking is maybe we've got plenty to do, so I want to kind of get into the story here, but maybe in some future episodes we talk about any other podcasts you or I listen to,
Yeah.
Maybe
when he has like an episode 25, for instance, like when he has an episode, because there's been an episode before.
Right, we skipped.
We could just, that episode could be us talking about a different podcast.
Could be. That's a good idea.
Or we just do whatever.
And I like the little shorts you've been making.
Yeah.
Those are good. And sometimes you put some fun facts in there.
Yeah, I have a few loaded up and ready to go.
You do?
I gotta make them still.
Right. So, Benjo, when we left off in episode 24, the Roman Tetrarchy, which was the two Augustuses and the two Caesars, East and West, they weren't having any of Carausius claiming from Britain, or at least ruling Britain. I think he was from the continent, claiming to be the third emperor, right? That would have been a hexarchy. I don't know. Tetra is 4. Anyway, they weren't having.
Hex is 6.
Yeah. So if he had come in as another Augustus, he would have had to have another Caesar, and then they would have been the hexarchy.
Yeah.
I think Jamie even said that. But there were a couple of things. So anyway, I'm going to get right back to that. There are a couple of things I wanted to mention. Jamie is talking about some stuff that is going on with some raiders in France and how they kind of got absorbed into the Roman Empire. And then he says after he finishes the BHP, he may do another podcast about this.
About what?
About French French barbarians getting barbarian raiders getting absorbed by the Romans into the Roman Empire. He says when he finishes the BHP, he may do a podcast about that. Little did he know.
He's not going to finish the BHP.
Little did he know in 2011 or 2012, whenever this episode came out, that he was never going to finish it.
How did he not know that?
Because I just don't think he knew how in depth he was going to get.
He wasn't
14 years later.
He wasn't taking it as serious back then.
No, he was taking it serious, but I just don't think he realized how in depth he was definitely taking it serious, but he had another job.
We should do a U.S. history podcast.
I've looked at, and this is what I bring it. Why
Like
I
just
bring
like
that
just
up.
like our own little thing.
This is why I bring this up is because I've looked for them. You say we should do one?
Yeah, like our own.
I'd have to quit my every job except for being mayor. I think
we start from the beginning of. We start from 17. We start from the Pangea.
Yeah. I went out and because I love this so much, I looked for other ones, and there just wasn't one that satisfied me. And I think I realized the reason I like the BHP so much is because it talks about this island, Britain. The island doesn't get any bigger or smaller, right? I listened to like the French history podcast and the boundaries of France expanding, but Britain's an island. Anyway, Benjo, he mentions that. Foreshadowing. He mentions that he was going to do another podcast after he finishes the BHP, which is just silly because it's never. So I flipped this because there was one other thing I was going to mention. At the end of the episode, he mentions that he lost his hard drive and his apartment flooded, but his dog's tumor went away.
Because of the flood?
No, I don't think that had anything to do with it. So 2 bad things. He lost his hard drive and his apartment flooded, but his dog's tumor went away miraculously. Yeah. Anyway, thought that was interesting.
Well, I feel like that's the best it could have gone. Like,
right.
You would have wanted
out of those 3,
you would have wanted the dog's tumor.
Correct, right. So, Benjo, anyway, back to it. Carausius was not, the Roman government, the tetrarchy, was not going to let him be a third Augustus with a third Caesar, right? But his support was starting to lessen, and the Roman Empire was starting to become more stable and able to protect against the barbarian raiders. That's why Carausius was so popular, was because the Romans weren't protecting the citizens of Britain against these barbarians. And so he was like, well, I'll do it then. Well, Rome started to get their act together, and they started protecting against these barbarians, right? And Rome, the tetrarchy was providing a generally stable succession and governance system. So while there was chaos and uncertainty with the Roman leadership before, it seems to be pretty stable at this point. So there's a construction boom, we know from archaeology about this time, right? In defenses, but it could have been also to protect from a growing unrest within Britain and a potential civil war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Carausius is getting nervous that the Roman Empire is slowly, like a blob, just moving towards Britain and poised to retake Roman control of Britain.
Tsunami.
Kind of like a slow tsunami. Because remember, Carausius has declared that Britain is its own empire, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So 293, Carausius is nervous, so he's trying. That's originally why he had said, "Let me be the third emperor," and they're like, "Nah, bro." So he's preparing for Rome moving closer and looking to take them back over, and he's also preparing for a civil war within Britain, right?
Yeah.
So he's nervous. This is 293. Okay. So Carausius is nervous because remember, Carausius is from looks like northern France area, maybe northeastern France, and he lost his land on the continent. He lost his land probably like around here to a guy named Constantius, who was Maximian Caesar. Remember, there's an Augustus and a Caesar.
Yeah.
So he's Maximian's Caesar. And Constantius was married to Maximian's. So Maximian was the Augustus. Constantius was the Caesar. Constantius was married to his daughter. But before he was married to Maximian's daughter, before he was a Caesar, he had a different wife named Helena. Helena. Or maybe it's Helena.
No, I'm calling it Ellen.
You are? So he got a promotion and he ditches his first wife and marries Maximian's daughter. I mean, what do you think about?
I think he's power hungry.
You think so? I mean, so anyway, Helena, the first wife, gives birth to Constantius' son Constantine.
Constantine?
Yeah.
Wait, isn't he like a really
super famous? That's a name we'll be talking about.
Wait,
right?
Does this family have anything in relation to Constantinople?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
yes, it does.
They really like Constantine.
I believe that's what Constantinople was named after, Constantine. Yeah.
Oh, so who is Constantinople? Are we going to get into Constantinople?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about Constantine's legacy, and so Constantine. This is what Constantine is most known for, and why Constantinople was named after. I don't know, what was it before? We know it's now. We know Constantinople is now what? Istanbul, Turkey.
I'm so lost.
Istanbul, Turkey used to be named Constantinople.
Who's Istanbul, Turkey?
Istanbul is just the name of Constantinople, that city now.
Oh, Constantinople, the city.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was a person.
No, Constantinople, the city, is now Istanbul, Turkey. And that's because the Arabs overtook it in like 1453 after having lost it for like 1,000 years. And that's a whole nother story. We're jumping ahead.
Constantinople, or Istanbul, Turkey, is about
Istanbul.
Is about over here 700 million. Okay, not 700.
But the reason I said that is because they named it. They renamed it Constantinople. I don't know, maybe it was a new city at the time, or was it something else, and then they renamed it Constantinople. Yeah. Anyway, Constantine, what is he most known for?
He's most known for.
You would never guess this. He is most known.
Can I at least throw out a guess?
Throw out a guess.
For saving Constantine, for saving his dad.
No, but I like the guess.
Oh, okay.
He's most known for converting the Roman Empire to Christianity.
Oh.
So this is when Rome, before they're pagans, they believed in pagan gods. This is when Rome becomes Christianized. Okay,
yeah, like Catholic guys too.
Right.
Because I remember when we went to.
Well, there's not really Catholics at this point.
Well, anyway, when we went to Italy and we went to Rome, it was like super Catholic and everything.
Yeah, they're all Christians, and then within Christianity, there's Catholics and there's
Methodists,
Protestants. Protestants are Methodists and Baptists and Lutherans and Presbyterians.
Wait, fun fact: the word Protestant has protest in it, right? Because was it Martin Luther? Martin Luther protested the Catholic Church, and he had like 100 and something reasons why they were bad. They stood up and
edicts of Worm. Was that it?
Yeah, and I think Protestant is like the most.
I think
is like the most religious.
There's a lot of Catholics too.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the most people.
More Protestants than Catholics? I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm pretty
positive. Oh, you're telling me?
Yeah. I learned it in social studies class.
You did? Well, even across the entire world, I would just think internationally there'd be more Catholics. Maybe I'm wrong. But
maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway, Constantine. Constantine, we're going to be talking about Constantine for a while. I have made my notes for the next episode. Constantine, we're going to be talking about Constantine and Constantius. But anyway, as I mentioned, Rome is trying to show that they can protect Britain, right? That they don't need Carausius, that the great big paternal Roman Empire is there to protect you. So the English Channel at this point, the English Channel is, look, right here. Yeah. It's dangerous because both of the Roman threat, it's dangerous for people in Britain, from the Roman threat and from the barbarians from the continent, the non-Romanized Gaul folks that are raiding in boats and coming in, getting their stuff, which, again, we were talking about before. Romans were great engineers, conquerors, administrators, but they really weren't known for sailing a lot. They knew how to sail. Yeah. Obviously, they wouldn't have gotten to Britain if they didn't. But they weren't, like, there are there are ethnicities and groups of people known for their sailing.
The sailing talent.
Right.
I mean, like they weren't the best or
Right.
anything, but I mean they got something.
So it sounds like the barbarians may have even been better sailors than the Romans. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. You would think the Romans would get super organized to sail.
I mean, especially with them on like being a peninsula and out in the ocean, surrounded by 3 bodies of water.
Right.
You would think.
And for the vast majority of people in Britain, while there was trade with the continent, the vast majority of people would have lived their entire lives without probably venturing too far from where they were born, with certainly many exceptions. But there was a trading class, and you had goods from all over Europe and maybe a little bit beyond, like Middle Eastern and stuff, shared in Britain even at this time, especially because they were parts of the Roman Empire. Anyway, Benjo, let's get back to it. So the Romans they defeated all these barbarians who were raiding, right? And so they were able to basically say to Britain, hey, look, we can protect you from these barbarians. We're beating them off in like wink, wink, nod, nod. If you come under our control, we can protect you.
Yeah.
And so those barbarians that they beat off, Rome put back into the Roman Empire. They made them Roman, essentially. They conquered them. They made them Roman. And in the middle of this, so Jamie mentions that some of the sources are unreliable and propaganda. And then he also mentions never to consider this guy named Geoffrey of Monmouth as a credible historical source. He does provide some details that we have to know are true.
He got some beef.
Well, it's just that he was not credible. He lived like 800 years after this in the Norman conquest, post-Norman conquest period.
If only they had
Wikipedia
back then.
I did look that up on Wikipedia. Oh. So anyway, Carausius, he's there in Britain, wanted to become the third emperor. They said no. He's got a buddy named Electus, who may or may not have been a Roman spy, because he assassinates Carausius and takes control of Britain. This wasn't a big, large coup. This was just like his inner circle revolting against him, kind of like Brutus and Julius Caesar, and he kills him, right? So it's like, okay, he's the inner circle, he kills Carausius. How does he then gain the trust of the top lieutenants? We don't know about that. But anyway, the reason I said he may have been a Roman spy is because Rome didn't really do anything to try to fight Electus, right? At this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, Electus rules. So he takes over from Carausius. He rules Britain for 3 years. In 296, Constantius and a guy named Julius, has a long name. We're just going to call him Julius. Okay. Constantius and Julius set out to reconquer Britain. Okay. Constantius sets out from Bologna. Julius sets out from the Seine. I'm not sure whether that's east, who's east and who's west. I think Constantius is probably more west from what I'm about to tell you. And possibly he set out just to distract them from the real group coming from Julius, right? The invasion coming from Julius. And so Electus, I told you before that Rome didn't try to overtake him, and he was emperor of Britain for 3 years. Well, now the time has come, and Rome is attempting to reconquer. What are you doing with your mouth? Just listening. What are you doing, Goofy? But Electus wasn't really a military strategist. He was a banker, and so he wasn't great in military defenses.
Okay, you bite your lips too sometimes.
I do. I sure do. So Julius is coming, as I mentioned. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Julius is coming from this direction. Okay, or I don't know, Benjo. I don't know. But anyway, Electus misses Julius's naval forces coming in because of a fog, and Electus had stationed his own naval forces on the Isle of Wight. You see that little island right there? And so he misses Julius. So Julius must have been over here, whereas Constantius must have been over here. I don't know if that's right or not. They landed unopposed, and I'm not sure whether Julius landed unopposed on the Isle of Wight or right here or somewhere another part of southern Britain. But anyway, Electus was somewhere in the southeast of Britain. I guess that's why. Okay, so he must have been somewhere over here in the southeast of Britain. One source says Electus fled when he saw Constantius's fleet. So I guess maybe I keep contradicting myself. Maybe Constantius is coming in from over here, and one source says Electus flees when he sees Constantius's fleet. But Electus may have been confident that his troops could have defeated Constantius, and so he went over here to defend against Julius, somewhere over here. And that was a rich but poorly defended area over here, so he needed to come and defeat them.
And did he defeat them? So,
spoiler alert, no.
What? You can't just spoil it like that.
I can't.
You can.
So he ran headfirst into Julius's army, who were cut off from the rest of their troops, and they had burned their own ships. So they had no choice but to defeat Electus.
Why would they burn their own?
I guess because they were worried that Electus would have taken them, so they'd rather burn them. I don't know. That's a good question.
But how are they going to leave now?
I know. Maybe they're like, we're not going to leave. That's a good question, Benjo. And that happens throughout history. You see more devastation where you think these conquering armies could use some of these resources, but they repeatedly throughout history burn stuff to the ground. I mean, it's like
what are you doing?
Crazy pyromaniacs throughout history. So anyway, Julius had nowhere to go to, and so Julius's army crushed Electus. And Jamie doesn't mention whether Electus was killed, so I had to look it up on
Wikipedia.
That's right. So Electus is killed in the battle, and Electus had some of these troops, Frankish troops, in his army, and so they were defending Britain, but they were from the continent. So he had some. So when Julius beat Electus, I guess some of his troops ran and went to London and started raiding people in London.
Oh no!
It's going to happen.
Okay, wait.
Time and time again.
Quick question.
You're going to get numb to it.
I was looking at the key over here, and the little black dotted line is national boundary. What's the national boundary right here?
Wales.
But what's it called?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
This is called the
Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
But that's not the national boundary. It doesn't follow Hadrian's Wall exactly.
Well, yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's
general. Offa's Dyke is a man-made earthen wall that does run generally along the Welsh border. We'll talk about that once we get into.
You could jump over Hadrian's Wall and still be in one section of the country that.
You're generally either in Scotland or England.
Okay, well, if you're in, say this is the Hadrian's Wall, right? This is England. This is Scotland. According to that map, and you saying that dotted line is not exactly Hadrian's Wall, if you jump over to Scotland, then you can still technically be in England.
In some parts, yes. Yeah.
I was clarifying that.
Yeah. Good question. I like it. Thoughts by Benjo Smith. So anyway, these Frankish troops they started raiding people in London, okay, just stealing stuff. That's what crazy drunken armies do. Well, Constantius then sails up the Thames, which I believe is right there as you're coming up to London, and he defeats all these Frankish mercenaries, I guess, that are raiding the Londoners. So the Londoners like cheer for Constantius because they're happy to be liberated by these Roman troops, right? So the rebellion is over. The rebellion where Britain had been their own thing was over, right? I mean, there'd been a rebellion before, rebellions.
Yeah.
This most recent rebellion is over, and you're going to see Britain reabsorbed into the Roman Empire again.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, should I give them the bad news and good news first? We lost our hard drive, our apartment flooded. But the good news is, Buck, our dog, his tumor is gone.
Well, we hope we never have to deal with that. But that was good news that Jamie's dog's tumor went away in like 2011, 2012. Benjo, this has been a long one, but I think it's been a good one. We'll get you back in to the next one. And enjoyed it. BHP After Dark. Cheers. Till next time.
Don't bleed.